Okay.
Welcome back to another version of Car Talk with
Right.
Jen and Amy. We thought we'd address a question that I think both of us get hit up with often, and that is the difference between Pilates and yoga and what each one of them does for the body, mind, and spirit, that kind of thing. So they're not the same thing. They're very different. But I'm going to let you talk about Pilates. Tell us what that does for you.
Yeah, so we get that question in our physical therapy clinic all the time because people think that they're very similar and that they have similar benefits, and they're both great, and I do both of them and love both of them, but for very, very different reasons. So most of the time I have people start with Pilates-based programs if they have low back pain especially, or if they're recovering from injuries. I have people that are 2 days post-surgical doing Pilates. So you can start from a very, very low level, easy position and work up to very, very difficult things. And so Pilates was invented by Joseph Pilates a long time ago in the war. And he was injured and couldn't get out of bed, and so he developed a workout where he was working out with springs from a hospital bed. And then that transferred over to the ballet community, and it's just kind of blown up from there. But you start from very neutral, safe positions for unstable joints or tight and painful joints, and then you work from there. And Pilates is really about core control. And the core is pretty much your whole torso, not just your abdominal muscles. And so you do different resistance levels based on spring loads. So all the springs on a reformer is typically what people use for Pilates, or there's mat Pilates or chair Pilates, or there's another thing called the Cadillac, which basically looks like a bed with springs attached all the way around it. So reformer and mat are the most common, and I think we're going to do a mat class for you guys here sometime soon, so watch out for that, just to kind of introduce you to some basic Pilates moves, and you guys can just see how you like it. So the mat Pilates, we really work on segmental control. So, you guys have heard of the vertebrae and the whole spine and stuff. We don't care that you can do one big sit-up. We want you to be able to control each little inch of that sit-up and be able to stop at any motion through there and make sure that you get a nice C-curve through there. So it's really, really focused on form. And then my impression of yoga, when I've done yoga and stuff in the past, is that it really works on strength at end range, which I think yoga is incredible, but it's harder for people to start yoga if they haven't done any sort of core strengthening or if they're starting from a really weak position. And end range positions is typically where people get hurt. We'll have people come into the clinic all the time that say, I bent over and picked up a pencil and I strained my back. And it has nothing to do with the weight that people are picking up. It has to do with the position that people are in. And so those end range, all the way bent over type positions for your low back are vulnerable positions for those muscles because they're not really strengthened in those positions typically. And yoga gives that to you. Yoga starts to strengthen you in those vulnerable positions. And so because of that, it can be a little bit more strenuous for people to get started with. And so I think people should start with a good core base, whether that's through regular workout and home stuff or Pilates, and then move to yoga. And I worked down at DU for about 6 years with their athletes, and we implemented a yoga program where it was just 1 day a week for all the Division I athletes, and injuries went down exponentially just because they were strengthened in those positions and had good range of motion. So I'll let Amy talk about yoga since she's specialized in that.
Well, so yoga was started by a guy named James Yoga about 40 years ago. No, I'm kidding. But from an application...
Half of you guys believed it, though.
From an application standpoint, I have seen the running community embrace yoga a lot more just in the last few years in terms of just it adding so much to their overall health and wellness and fitness. Physiologically, certainly there's a lot to talk about there, as well as mentally and spiritually. You can bring those components into it. One of the things that I would like to do to help people understand the benefits that you can have is to overcome the idea that you're going to sit in a room and do a bunch of chanting, and or if you feel threatened from a spiritual or religious standpoint. I think that yoga has been westernized a lot, and that can be a good or bad thing depending on your perspective. But my philosophy around it is try it out and take it for what it does for you. If you look at it just as a workout, that's fantastic. And if you want to explore the other benefits that it can have for you, spiritually and mentally as well, great. And you might be surprised some of that stuff happens sort of anyway. But you were talking about the end range motion. So that's where the strength building comes in. You know, you do get into a pose and hold it. There are many different types of yogas where you do a vinyasa flow type yoga, or there's a restorative there. So you have a lot of options with it. So I guess my main message for you for this video would just be to, first of all, understand the difference between Pilates and yoga, but also to know that you have a lot of options, and don't be afraid of it, or of either one. Take them with you and try it out and see what works for you.
And a lot of athletes are really surprised at how difficult a yoga class can be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're great workouts, both of them, so they're worth a shot.
And how much it helps. It really helps, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks guys.